Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining us this afternoon, we have Dr. Jan Liphardt, CEO of OpenMind, Alex Gunz, fund manager at Heptagon Capital, and Kevin Kelly, founder and CEO of Kelly Intelligence. We're here to discuss investing in aging and finding the balance between scientific, ethical, and practical concerns. It is great to have all of you with us. Certainly an interesting topic, Jan, and we'll kick this off with you. People are fascinated by longevity, aren't they?
Sure. Since the beginning of time, all of us have thought about age and health and so forth. And over the last few years, of course, there's been major advances as it comes to understanding our genomes and our ability to potentially make edits to our genomes. So that's been fascinating to see. Of course, there are a wide variety of challenges and concerns now on the horizon. But the fundamentals are very exciting. Having our genome and being able to make edits to it is something that's never before been there.
Yeah, it really is quite fascinating. And Alex, I think one of the more critical distinctions that we need to make with this is lifespan versus health span. Help us with that distinction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jill. I mean, the key dynamic that's going on is we're all getting older. We'd all like to live longer. And as Jan pointed out, the technology is in place that allows us to do so. But I think everyone involved in this debate really needs to make this distinction, as you said, between lifespan and health span. There is no point in living longer if you're going to have an unhealthy life. So really the key to all of this, and it doesn't really matter what angle you approach it from, is how to make people healthier. We think a lot of the debate is about how you shift the paradigm in medicine from being reactive to preemptive.
Yeah. And Kevin, one of the technologies that you have been, writing about for years has been CRISPR. Where are we now with that?
Yeah, and I think CRISPR actually dovetails off of a lot of the comments that they just said, where because it also improves quality of life. So actually last year we got the first FDA approved CRISPR technology that can be administered. And so you actually have Nasdaq listed companies like CRISPR and Vertex that are generating revenues actually off treating sickle cell disease as well as TDT. And so we're in the phase now where not only are we improving quality of life for those with sickle cell, but we're also coming up with bespoke therapies to actually treat people with ultra rare diseases, because we can actually find the break in the genome and target that with CRISPR. And we had a successful application for that with earlier this year with an infant in Pennsylvania. So we've got that. And then we also have CRISPR for the masses, where we're also trying to target cardiovascular diseases. So a lot of these publicly traded names like CRISPR, Vertex, Beam, they're publicly traded. You can get access to them. The way to think about it real quick is just basically it's like VC investing, right? Just like if you invested in Microsoft in 1986, where its market cap was less than $1 billion. Same with Amazon in 1997, its market cap was 500 million. It's the same type of thing. It's going to take a long time to play out.
Yeah. And Jan, when you think about health span, these are things that accrue over decades. And, thinking about how, not smoking, limiting alcohol and so forth, these are things that you have to think about earlier in life. So really is a lot of environment and personal accountability that goes into the equation as well.
Sure. Just to piggyback on Kevin's comments relating to CRISPR. So CRISPR is a technology that allows you to make very small, discrete changes to genomes. And that is a transformative technology for diseases where we understand exactly what the issue is. So imagine like an airplane or something like that. The airplane is broken. We know exactly what the problem is, and then CRISPR can be used to go in and make that discrete fix. So that's really important for things like rare diseases or sickle cell anemia. From a longevity perspective or health span perspective, the real problem is that our understanding of what it means to age gracefully and have a long health span is still very poor. So currently, our ability to make small discrete changes to genomes That technology is there. Where the big technical and scientific gap is knowing precisely what changes to make to augment health span. And that's where a variety of companies focusing on this intersection of AI and genome design are probably going to help. With respect to staying healthy and things we can do, as speaking for myself as an individual who's already a little bit older, it is unfortunate that many of the things I should have done when I was a lot younger to stay healthy, I probably didn't do. But that's exactly right. It's important to make good decisions early on over your lifespan.
Yeah. And Alex, it's such an interesting space because there are a number of defunct ideas, and we really don't understand why or exactly how the aging process works, right? And then you have that battle between the science, the ethics, and the practical concerns. Help us understand that balance.
I mean, I think the best way of answering your question, Jill, and it really piggybacks on what both the other speakers have said, is look, there is no one single solution to how we address this problem of aging, how we explore longevity science. Almost by definition, in our view, there are going to be a number of competing areas. They're not mutually exclusive, and you could well go down this pathway of health. You can equally go down this pathway of diet and lifestyle choices. Equally, you can use technology to improve things as well. But I think we do run in, as you say, to a huge number of ethical issues too. And this is really the starting point in our mind is, look, we have to allocate scarce resource efficiently on this planet. And if you have a population where not enough people are dying off, then you're going to have an issue allocating this scarce resource. There's also an issue about intergenerational equity. How do you ensure that younger people actually progress up through the system? So I think that the science needs to be considered very, very carefully. And I think that also feeds through into investment implications as well. A lot of these themes are very hot, they're concept stocks. But I think as far as we're concerned, what really excites us is trying to almost invest in the metaphorical picks and shovels, the enablers, the tools that will really help accelerate understanding about how and why the body ages.
Yeah. And I think, Kevin, it's interesting when you think about cloning as an example. I mean, that's it's the poster child for ethical concerns.
Yeah, it is the poster child for ethical concerns. And you actually saw most recently, it came out that Tom Brady cloned his dog. And so it was done by a company called Colossal Biosciences. And they've actually are trying to come back with the woolly mammoth. And that was sort of the headlines a couple years ago. But they're actually venturing into that area. And it's just showing you that a lot of this technology is not only being applied to humans, but it's being applied to agriculture. It's being applied to also animals. And so we actually need to take a step back and put up guardrails around that. And one of the biggest concerns is actually China. There's been concerns over there where they actually tried to they had an HIV child, they try to fix it. And so we're trying to figure out how do we do that on an international basis is really the big concern. But where the money is going is to not only just on the human side, but also to the animal side, to the agricultural side. And the CIA and Tom Brady have invested into Colossal Biosciences. So it's just showing you that this is the way to go. And one of the reasons why is a lot of these companies are using AI so they can apply it in multiple different facets.
Yeah, and when we think about how human genomes can be engineered and with this type of medicine advancing, the changes that could be made to genomes today could look very different, let's call it 50 to 100 years from now. What about the natural process of evolution and adaptability?
Well, one of the big challenges is that one of the really good things is that medicine right now is advancing very quickly. And and I'm definitely not condoning this. It's a very complicated, complex subject matter. But anyone hypothetically contemplating making changes, durable changes to the human genome, of course, will have to balance where they think medicine will be in decades from now. Imagine, we just heard this example from Kevin about genome engineering work done in China. But imagine, for example, in 10 or 20 years, a small molecule therapeutic that will provide an amazing cure to a particular disease. Anyone contemplating making changes to the human genome will have to anticipate future advances and then try to somehow balance those things. What is probably much more clear and much more sensible, also from a business perspective, is using CRISPR to cure rare diseases or conditions like sickle cell anemia. For those therapeutics, people are not making durable changes to the human genome. They're treating a specific medical condition in a specific person. And there, the technology and the ethical considerations and the business case is infinitely stronger than trying to make durable changes to the human genome that will be transmitted to future generations.
Yeah. So, Alex, when you think about it from an investing perspective, what are some areas, if you're trying to anticipate what the next 5, 10, 20 years are going to look like?
I think it's super important, Jill, to remain open-minded. As we said, I think it's very unlikely that there's going to be one single winner. And as both Jan and Kevin have pointed out, CRISPR is a superb technology, but it, to my mind, can only be really used today in certain specific circumstances. I would say from a very broad perspective, what we need to do is really try and set aside short-term skepticism, think a lot more about a more medium-term, open-minded point of view and how these technologies can potentially change the world. A really good example is something like IVF. That was a concept that was talked about, received a lot of skepticism when it first began, but now you have 10 million babies born through IVF. So I think, again, when you bring it back to this idea of investing, the specific question you asked, from our point of view, it's really about investing in the enablers, the businesses that are developing medical devices, the actual equipment that is allowing you to push the envelope, push the boundary on scientific discovery, and come up with these new innovations that will change the world over the medium term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting, Kevin, if you think about, as an example, Metformin or, GLP-1 is an example, the potential impact that could have to aging, to weight loss and so forth. I mean, the impact to other industries. Think about how many billions of dollars are spent in the cosmetic industry, as an example, to either prevent aging or mask aging. The implications are beyond just the human and, sequencing.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because there's a lipstick index. So when recessions happen, people look at the lipstick index to see if women are still spending money, and to what extent on makeup and all these types of things. So when a recession does hit, track the lipstick index. But I think the important thing to note is that disruption is everywhere. It's an omnipresent phenomenon. And so, as we go through this and the way AI is shifting everything, we're looking at exponential growth, especially in treatments, in sequencing, and, and we haven't been in this ever before. And so that's why we call it the intelligence revolution, because it is a literal hockey stick and exponential changes happening. And so investing in companies, so we talk about CRISPR, and CRISPR-Cas9 is sort of looked at as an archaic form of CRISPR now, and it won the Nobel Peace Prize over 10 years ago. But now there's different forms of CRISPR, and you can use different guide RNA or different types of technologies for implementing it. There's base editing, there's prime editing, there's tons of different things. So I think in looking at it, AI is going to actually dramatically shift this. We could have this conversation a year from now, and our investment theses could be completely different, changed. I mean, NVIDIA even invested in a stock that's looking to help disrupt and do on the sequencing side. RXRX is the ticker. So I think one way to think about it is that you constantly have to stay on top of where is the technology going and where do you think it can be 3, 5, 10 years out? Because these are long-term investments to play out. I mean, if you invested in CRISPR based off of that sickle cell treatment that just got approved, you did that years and years and years ago. And so I think the important thing is staying on top of it and seeing how AI is going to disrupt everything going forward.
Yep, I mean, AI is certainly, the tentacles are everywhere. Jan, to wrap up here from an academic perspective, how's the community approaching it? Where are they looking towards longer term?
Well, it's a very general question, but as a professor at Stanford, it is awesome for me to think about that when PhD students ask me today, Jan, how shall I summarize the literature? How shall I generate new hypotheses? One of my recommendations is go ask Grok 5 Heavy. Go ask a LLM to help you with that. And so, as a scientist, I'm super excited by the ability we now have of summarizing millions of papers, finding gaps. And that is, from my perspective, the really big breakthrough is that for the first time, we have really good computer tools to help us make sense of biology. So, what I'm anticipating is a much faster iteration cycle for drugs and the ability to invent drugs for specific people based on their particular genome and also their particular health. So that's where I really like this notion of investing in the sort of enabling tools that Alex brought up and also Kevin brought up. And like for me as a scientist, it's awesome to get so much help in terms of making sense of the existing literature and finding new opportunities.
Yep. All right. Appreciate everyone's insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.